Oh shit, my tea is really hot.
Do you have like a fun intro for us today to start on? You should do the chant from the North.
Have you seen the trailer for the Northman?
You should. What's the thing he repeats?
I will avenge you, father. I will save you, mother. I will kill you, Fjolnir.
The Northman coming out next year. Both of our most hyped film, I think.
Is it yours as well?
Yeah, at this
Didn't
point
you say
it
was
is.
in your top 3?
I would say so. Yeah. Well, we're back, everybody. It's been almost 6 months somehow since our last episode.
6?
Yeah, our last post was in July.
Wow. Okay.
It's hard to believe, but time flies when you're having fun and making movies. And, you know, Claudius is in film school now, and I'm working pretty much full-time on a bunch of commercial stuff. This is going to be a New Year's episode, a holiday episode, I guess, so we'll both be sporting
we're
hats.
both I'm wearing a hat as well, but I'm basically just trying to mask my terrible hair because I showered like half an hour ago. But yeah.
Fair enough. So yeah, if you're watching this, it'll probably be 2022 already. So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I hope you guys had a nice Christmas.
But yeah, let's just catch up for a second because we haven't done a podcast in almost half a year. So what are you up to?
I'm in Sweden at the moment in film school, it's a 1-year program, and after winter break I'll be working on my next short film that I'll be directing, that I wrote and that I'll be directing, and it's gonna be a shit ton of work, but it's hopefully gonna be very good, and
I've read the script for it. It is going to be very good.
And it's going to be a surreal, non-supernatural horror. You can think in terms of direction more, killing of a sacred deer. Stylistically, it's going to be interesting to execute.
I'm so excited for that. Yeah.
What are you working on? It's so funny to ask this because, we know, but yeah.
Nice segue. Yeah, well, we're still in pre-production for Aria, my short film. We're slated to film either in April or May of 2022. And we have some amazing locations. We have almost locked in our cast, which is pretty exciting. And the
cast you wanted in the first place, right?
Yeah, some emails that were sent happened to go to my spam folder. And I didn't see them until this week, but so hopefully the stars align with this. But we're going to make something very cool. Won't say too much else, but there will be updates in the future. But today's episode, we just wanted to do a bit of a New Year's reflection on our lives as filmmakers and as cinephiles. So today's topic, we'll be discussing 3 films each that over the course of our lives have impacted us in some way. And we'd like to do a disclaimer, I guess, that these are not the 3 biggest changes in our life film-wise, but rather just 3 like in a chronology of sorts. So
more like for mine, it's more like stages of life. It's going to be one film that was like this was one of the first films that got me really interested in film, then another one that was like a classic film, that one of the first classics that I really loved, and then a more like recent watch that was
same. My first pick will be the first movie that I watched in film school that really shook my definition of what film could be. The second one is a film that I really grew close to in New York and have still continued to grow closer to. And then my third pick is something that I watched this year. In the past, we have sort of shared with each other beforehand, like, oh, I'm going to talk about these films. You're going to talk about these. But this time we don't know what the other person picked. I don't think we'll have any overlap, but yeah, I'm excited to hear your picks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why don't you start us off with your first film?
Let me lock my door really quick so that no one enters.
I was like, somebody's gonna break in. I'd like to take this moment to thank our sponsor of today's episode, Anchor by Spotify. Anchor is the best place. You just go back in on the.
Oh man.
No, we are still sponsored by Anchor. I think I think we've made almost enough from AdSense to pay for like a cheeseburger.
Okay.
On the podcast. So if you ever find yourself in my neck of the woods, or if I come to Sweden, we can split one cheeseburger.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
go ahead with your first pick.
Yeah, my first pick it would be Mulholland Drive, actually. And it's a film I watched back when I was in Canada. Not actually in film class, but through my then best friend who already knew a little bit more about film. He knew more films in general. And he showed me this weird film that I didn't understand at all, but I was so intrigued by it. And yeah, Mulholland Drive. It's, I think, one of the first films that showed me what film can actually be, and how strange and twisted and non-comprehensible a film experience can be, and also in a way that you want to rewatch the film, not because it's nice entertainment or something, but because there's stuff you want to unpack. And it's, to me back then, Mulholland Drive, I think I watched it 3 times, 3 more times in the next few weeks after that, and I just try to unpack what it all means.
Yeah, Mulholland Drive made my top 200 as well. I love that movie, and I feel like David Lynch, it is my favorite Lynch movie, actually. But he talks a lot about abstractions and how a lot of the films he wants to make aren't literal representations of anything in life. I think that's a very, I don't know, necessary perspective in cinema, because a lot of people just try to portray realism, which also, has its place. But I just people who don't like Lynch's films often critique them for being convoluted or this makes no sense or whatever. But yeah, there's a really good interview with him. It's on YouTube somewhere, but it's about him talking about abstractions and why he doesn't always, gravitate towards realism.
I love when David Lynch talks. I could listen to this man all day.
Weather report.
It is sunny with a few clouds out here today, and today I thought of Lana Del Rey's song "Video Games." Do you know that one?
Yeah. I have a question for you. So you said that
you
said that Mulholland Drive was the film that changed your definition of what films could be, which is what my first pick will be. But I'm curious, what was your favorite film before you saw Mulholland Drive?
Yeah, I think I have this one written down here as well, because I was contemplating whether I would do that one as well. But I think one of the first films. Back then, when I was a kid, I didn't think about favorite films, or I didn't think about which one do I like more, but I know one I just love, and I don't know how many times I watched it with my family, was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I mean, that was one of them. It's just, to me, that's childhood. And I know that we watched all 3, and the second one is so weird and so strange, and the age restriction
is the second one Temple of Doom?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the age restriction back then was weird.
Yeah.
So all across the globe, there were parents showing their kids the new Indiana Jones film, or the second Indiana Jones film, and then there's this part where the heart gets ripped out.
Kali Ma.
And I was fucking traumatized by that. But Last Crusade is just,
I think Raiders is still my favorite.
Yeah, Raiders is my second favorite, after Last Crusade, of course. But I think the like dynamic between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery are like it's so nice, and yeah, I just love that film for its entertainment value. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Steven Spielberg isn't a director who I constantly, when after I watch his films, I don't think about them that much, but they're just
Right.
like, I think they're so simple, but he's just the best at making simple and really good, nice films, and ones that you don't
Yeah, he's got a
think
formula and he sticks with it, but it definitely works.
yeah.
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 Yeah, but Mulholland Drive, good first pick. I feel like that would be most people's like second pick in their chronology of their film evolution. I'll go with my first pick. So, Children of Men by Alfonso Cuaron was the first movie that I watched in film school. It actually wasn't for a class though. One of my really good friends, Anders, shout out to Durs, he showed me Children of Men on his phone, like in my dorm, like the first week that I moved in. And like up until that point, my favorite movie was honestly like probably still Pulp Fiction. We all went through that phase, but like coming out of high school,
I did not go through that. I did not go through the
you
Pulp Fiction
bypassed
phase.
it, and I'm so envious of you. I mean, I still like Pulp Fiction a lot. It's just
me
it's when
too.
people think that it's like that's peak cinema, then that's I think when there's a perspective problem maybe. But so yeah, I mean, I went into film school with the sort of mentality that's like, oh my gosh, like dialogue and like I don't know, snappy violence and like cool quips and like that's what movies should be like.
And now you make films with no dialogue at all.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm like Children of Men is the movie that taught me that cinema is like first and foremost like a very visual language. Like a lot of the camera work is so almost documentary-esque. I was like watching it in these really long takes and I'm like, wait, you can do that with a camera and like in a feature film? Like I had not seen anything like it before. The use of like natural light as opposed to like stage lighting, studio lighting, shooting on like real locations, just the immersion of the long takes in Cuaron's direction and Lubezki's cinematography just utterly like blew my mind. Even though we were watching it on an iPhone, which I still kind of hate that was how I first watched it. I rewatched it again like a week later on a better screen, but
yeah, I think the first time I watched it was actually this year.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had not seen it before. And yeah, the long takes are crazy. And there's one shot that I absolutely love is the Pieta shot.
Oh, yeah.
When the camera... and it does this a lot in Children of Men. The camera follows the characters, but then suddenly
it lingers off to the background.
Lingers here and looks up there, and it's very like Lubezki, of course.
Genius.
But it's here. It really, it's so good. It works, and when it drifts over to the like woman holding
the grieving
her
mother.
child.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
Cuaron did that in Roma too, which makes me feel like it's more of his inclination rather than Lubezki's to do things like that, because it's very unconventional to like leave your main characters for any amount of time. But I mean, yeah, he does that earlier in the film too, where like it'll follow them, and then the camera just sort of like it's almost as if the camera loses interest in Clive Owen, and then it just checks out the background, and like it's really to show like the context of everything. And honestly, like I think that's a really underrated way to sort of world build in a way, like as a director. It's honestly, it's brilliant. And yeah, all the references to like famous paintings and stuff, Picasso, like, yeah, there's a ton of art references in it too. And
David, with the broken leg, which I love because it's actually predicted that the leg will break off with time, and that it'll have to be stabilized somehow. And it's very cool.
Yeah, I mean the movie on a surface level is about like the death of humanity, but it's also about the death of art, I think. And I think Cuaron, by making that, I think he was trying to make a statement about like the state of cinema as well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a radical movie. I love it. Uh,
Mm.
yeah. All right, let's get to your second.
Yeah,
What's your second pick,
it's
dude?
amazing. My second is, yeah, like I said, it's one of the first classics that I truly loved, and
Mm.
I gotta say, I got into American classics before I got into, yeah, European or Asian cinema or yeah, stuff like that. So this one is Vertigo,
Ah,
and it still is, uh, yeah, one of my favorite films of that era, and it's my favorite Hitchcock, and yeah, I think it was a point when I started, after I started getting more and more into film, I, yeah, started watching older films as well, and started appreciating them in a way that I couldn't before,
mm.
because this kind of veil of, oh, it's like an older film, it's not that believable, blah blah blah, dropped completely, and it was, I could immerse myself in it far more than I would have been able before, which was nice. And I just think in terms of visuals, blocking, and the way it explores. Uh, and for me, Vertigo is like one of the films about art as well,
Mm. Good
and
tie-in.
this man trying to recreate a woman, or this image of a woman that he has and he clings to, uh, and yeah, it's, for me, it's incredible, and I think it's the same like interest area in film that Eyes Wide Shut for me like falls into, in terms of sexual, psychosexual exploration, stuff like that, uh, and yeah, except like apart from just being extremely thrilling, it's just, yeah, so layered. I can watch it again and again, and I can always find something new in it. Yeah.
You're really selling me on a rewatch. I've seen it twice. I feel like
Uh,
everybody who follows the page knows I'm not like the biggest Hitchcock fan. It's
mhm.
funny. I was actually talking to a friend at lunch today about Vertigo as well. I had no idea you were going to bring it up again.
Yeah.
Um, no, you're really selling me on a rewatch. I mean, yeah, it's great. I really like that movie too.
Yeah. Hitchcock isn't one of my all-time favorites,
Yeah.
but this film is incredible to me. Yeah. Uh, I love it. What's your second?
So my second pick, I was debating switching this right before we hopped on, but I'm sticking with it
Mm.
because I think I have talked about it before, but it's so formative for me. Like
Yeah.
I can't really not include it in like the earlier.
Yeah, I think I only picked ones that I hadn't, or maybe I talked about Mulholland Drive before. I'm
I've
not
talked
sure.
about Children of Men too. I tried really hard. I talk about a lot of shit.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so this second pick is like the formative film for me in my early adult life, which I'm still in.
Hmm.
I guess. Yeah, I just turned 25. I'd say I'm still in that era. um, it's
Mm.
Frances Ha by Noah Baumbach.
Hmm.
And
Which I haven't seen.
oh, really? Dude.
No.
Wow. I guess
Yeah.
so.
This moment comes up at least once in every episode where you name a film,
Yeah.
and then I'm
Oh,
like,
but Frances
nope.
Ha, dude, I feel like I've told
Haven't
you to
seen
watch
it
it
yet.
so many times and you still haven't. No, Frances Ha is
No,
really
you
like,
haven't told me.
it's a coming of age movie, but instead of it being of like childhood to adolescence, it's like it's like a young adult coming of age movie because
Mm.
I don't know, I feel like people are always growing up in a way, and this chapter of like millennials and like being a young
Mm.
adult in New York, like that's only the surface of it. I feel like my interpretation of Frances Ha has changed every single time I watch it because of where I
Mhm.
am in the stage of my life that I'm at when I see it each time. I've probably seen it like 20 times
Yeah.
by this point. Um, but it's such a like special film to me. First of all, because it's definitely not something I would have liked if I had watched it for the first time in like high school. It sort of borders the line of like mumblecore a little bit. And I mean, I was rather pretentious in high school, and I feel like I just wouldn't have given it the time of day, but it's a very simple and humble movie, and beyond like the New York aspect of it, because I'm sort of past that, in a different chapter of my life now. It just reminds me that you can like make something genuinely beautiful with very little. And we talk about the idea of like less is more a lot on the podcast, because we both sort of like minimalism, like thematically, I guess. My
next pick is very interesting in terms of that. Yeah.
See, we can't help but make good segues. But yeah, I mean, they filmed this on a Canon 5D, which is like insane to me, because in my opinion, it's maybe like the best shot modern black and white movie besides like Ida or Cold War. It's very beautiful and like a very like,
or The White Ribbon.
Sorry, yeah, or Roma. Anyway, it's beautiful for being shot on a 5D. And
I didn't know they did that.
It wasn't for a lack of resource. Like they tested on Reds and like other better cameras, but when they did their projections, they just kept going back to the 5D because of how it sort of emulated that 60s look from the French New Wave.
I actually thought it was shot on film.
Yeah, I did too the first time I saw it.
From the images I saw.
Yeah. But yeah, so I recently also just rewatched it with my girlfriend. And I mentioned earlier, like each viewing of it, the meaning has changed. And this most recent viewing was maybe like the most radical I've had of it, which maybe makes this my third pick, but no, it's my second pick still. But yeah, it's just like, I feel like half of the rewatches did come from when I was living in New York, just like a very lonely time. And like Frances Ha is a comedy, but it's also kind of sad in a way. Like if you think about each scene, it's like kind of depressing. And yeah, I just love it because like the film is sectioned into chapters, and each chapter is like titled a different address that Frances lives in. Which is cool because I think a lot of people tend to think of their lives based on like where they've lived, like spatially, they block their lives like that. But this time when I was watching it, we also noticed that it was like the chapters could almost be marked as more like temporally, like because she does grow over the course of the film, and like there's a very clear arc with her. And especially in like the last chapter, it's just very satisfying to see her sort of like come into her own shoes, I guess, like fill her own shoes and sort of realize who she's supposed to be as a young adult.
Okay, I really have to watch it.
Yeah, and dude, like you're at that age, like, you know, young 20s, you gotta watch Frances Ha. It's just, it's an anthem for me. And it's one of those.
It's funny because when you're talking about Frances Ha, it sounds like it's way more of like each time you watched it was more like different emotionally. For me, Vertigo, when the different watches weren't actually that emotional at all. It was more that the way I understood it or viewed it was different each time, or like grew in a way, or I felt that I got to know certain parts of film more and more.
Yeah.
First it was like technical, then like thematic, the way it explores. Like Vertigo is such a surface level film. It's not about the inner lives for me of characters at all. It's so blatantly just, really just here is the green dress, here is the beautiful woman, here is the man who it's so
it lays it all out for you,
surface level, but there's a beauty for me in that, and the way Hitchcock like talks about it in Vertigo, in that like it's the artificial that goes to the foreground instead of the like deep inner feelings, but that it's actually what we present and what we, yeah, show ourselves to be. And the artificial, the art, is what actually counts in the end, because it's all that we see anyway. And to me, the way he thematizes it, is that a word? I think
It
so.
can be, for the sake of the podcast.
And that film is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I just like movies that sort of change, not because the film changes, but because of you as a person have changed when you come back to it.
Yeah.
Frances Ha is sort of like a Trojan horse movie in a way, because the whole time while you're watching it, you're just like, this is just kind of like fun and like quirky, and it's just like entertaining. Adam Driver comes in and out for a couple scenes. It's great. But then like by the end, like the very last shot, no, I was saying like Frances Ha, by the time that the last shot rolls, which the credits also like roll into the final shot, the meaning of the film just come like crashing down, at least for me. Like it almost hits me like a wall. Like the first time I watched it, I was like, oh, that's what this entire, personal like odyssey was about. And like I'm not going to say what it is, because it hits much more if you don't know what it is while you're watching it. But
I can say that about Ida, for example. That's one of those films that for me, when the final shot rolls, I was in tears. It was crazy. Like the final shot of that film breaks me.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to watch Frances Ha so we can talk about the ending.
Yeah.
It's a sleeper ending for sure. Like I'm sure a lot of people saw it end and were just like, okay, like whatever. But for me, it was just like, wait a second, did I just learn an indispensable lesson about life and friendship and time and space?
Wait a second.
Wait a minute, did he just get me?
Did my life just change?
Yeah. All right, your third pick, your most recent pick. What has changed your life? I'm super curious. Wait, can I guess?
Yeah.
I don't think this is right, but is it the Green Knight?
No.
Okay.
No. Like so far off. No. No.
I didn't love the Green Knight. I just remember that you liked it, so I thought maybe.
Yeah, I liked it, but no.
What could it be? Oh my god, wait, do we have the same one?
Huh?
Do we have the same one? What is it?
Wait, no. Okay, you wanna make another guess?
What else came out this year?
I don't think we have the same one.
Okay.
I don't think so. It's Cuaron.
Oh, okay. I was thinking like something that came out this year for some reason. Yeah.
It's Kobayashi's Cuaron.
Okay, cool.
And I watched it. Yeah, I'm in Stockholm right now, and together with my roommates and classmates who also study film, we watched this one relatively in the beginning, so a few, like I think 2.5 months ago, or 2 months ago, about 2 months ago, and it's one of the best films I've seen probably ever, and this year I think it's one of my recent favorite watches. And in terms of minimalism, I think Cuaron, just in terms of what it does with sound, opened up a world of like diving deeper into sound and knowing more about sound to me. So again, there's like a kind of technical aspect to me liking this film and being having this as one of my recent favorites, but it really did open another door within cinema to me. They remove sounds where there should be sounds, but emphasize specific sounds like a lot, and the music is the same, and it's this very minimal approach where the music does this thing where it almost is like an entity of its own, and then there's one string here, there's one like quick sound here, and there's one thing happening here, and it's almost as if there's no correlation sometimes between the sound and the image and the music. But in a way, it fits completely. And for those who don't know, Cuaron is a Japanese ghost story anthology film, and it fits that vibe perfectly. Like the sound feels so eerie and ominous. It's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, I recently rewatched it after you did. I'd seen it like
Mhm.
a long time ago. So long ago, like I hadn't
Mhm.
even logged it on Letterboxd. Like it wasn't worth logging because I didn't
Yeah.
know. And yeah, I can definitely see why it had such a profound impact on you.
Yeah.
I think Qui-Gon literally just means like ghost story. Yeah,
Yeah.
or like scary story or something.
After watching this film, a few days later we watched Wolf of Wall Street, and I couldn't believe it, because these Japanese films by Kobayashi, or it's like or Kurosawa, it's after you watch them you can't watch any other film, because those films look so perfect, because the composition and the color, it's like it's incredible. And then Wolf of Wall Street, I watched it,
Cheers,
was like,
man.
oh my god, it just, it looks like shit. It's terrible. I couldn't really. Of course, it's a Martin Scorsese film. It's about excess and yeah, but
Yeah.
and it's a great film still. But really, I was so surprised, because I was just. This
Yeah, I mean,
can't
it's
be
shot for
possible.
realism, I guess, isn't it? I haven't seen it in a while. It's just very like standard lighting setups, like
Yeah, very. It looks like the cheapest studio lighting ever. After watching Qui-Gon, I
Yeah.
just couldn't believe it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, with films like Qui-Gon and like even like House to an extent, there's this level of artificiality that almost mirrors like stage, you know?
Yeah,
Like theater.
it really is like the set design in Qui-Gon is
Yeah.
so artificial, and it's insane. It's like paintings. The fucking
Yeah.
sky is an actual painting, and it totally fits. It's so
It's
good.
like it's like a mix between theater and cinema, which, dude, you're gonna love The Tragedy of Macbeth when you. Yeah, it's like it's getting insane reviews right now too. Jade and I went
Yeah.
to like an early screening of it, and honestly, like after it ended, we were both just like almost
You
teared
always
up.
get these early screenings,
Dude,
Yeah.
I got the connects. Okay. Denzel Washington had a couple monologues though where like you almost want to cry because he's so good. Like he, I mean, that's not why I brought that movie up. It's the visuals. Bruno Debonel also shot that, and like that's maybe like the greatest modern example of blending theater and cinema, like as pure as their art forms can get. It's like pretty much all of the set pieces in Tragedy of Macbeth look like very fake, but it's like very intentional, and it's so cool. Okay, should I do my last pick? What do you think it is?
Is it one that came out this year?
Yes, it is.
It's Spencer.
Yeah. Yes, it is. What's up, Pablo? Hey, Kristen. Yeah, so the last time we did the podcast, it was our most anticipated of 2021. And I think Spencer was not even the top of my list at that point, because none of us knew how incredible it was going to be. But I saw it at Telluride Film Festival. I was going to do like a separate podcast just about that, but I did not have time, and now we're here. So
I watched it at Stockholm's Film Festival. So
yeah, how was that?
that was really nice as well.
Like, what were the venues? Were they just like theaters around the city, or?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so Telluride, I saw it once. It was the second showing they did because we didn't get into the first one. So we waited in line for like 4 hours for the second one. And we got in. We were like the first ones in line in the ticket buyer's line. Definitely getting a pass next year. But like we were sitting in our seats. We had amazing seats. We were sitting right behind Maggie Gyllenhaal and her husband, Peter Sarsgaard. And like we were just like sitting there waiting. It's like 20 minutes after it's supposed to start. We're all like, what the hell? Like, why isn't it starting? And then so finally the announcer comes in and he's like, I'm sorry about the wait, guys, but Pablo Larraín and Kristen Stewart just landed at our airport. We're like driving them over right now. They're going to come introduce the film. And so we're like, everybody's like, oh my God. And so they show up like 5 minutes later, introduce the movie. And then we watch it and the first shot comes on. It's that beautifully composed tree branch coming out from the sky into the, oof. And I knew like, as soon as I saw that shot, I was like, okay, this like might be a masterpiece. And so,
and it's just a field and a branch, and
I know, and it was just like,
but the 16 millimeter, it's just the colors, the light.
Yeah, the aspect ratio.
So beautiful.
It's just native 16 millimeter.
166. Yeah.
166 is like, we found out later, is also just like, it's literally the golden ratio. Everything about Spencer was like flawless, and
it's my favorite film of this year. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, as it should be, I think.
You're like, good.
I was about to end this call right now if you didn't.
It should be
first. But yeah, I had a similar feeling watching Spencer as I did watching Maboroshi for the first time, where like, as it kept going, I was like, this is still perfect. Like, when is it gonna misstep? Like, when is there going to be a shot that I don't like, or like when is somebody going to say something that's kind of dumb, or like, you know what I mean? Like when is something thematically going to happen that I'm just like not into? But it never stopped getting better, and like from literally the first second to the final shot of the film, it was just it completely blew me away.
If we like would have decided on a film from this year that we thought like changed something for us, it would have been Spencer as well for me, because it was actually one of the first time. Was it the first time that I was at a film festival?
Oh, that's awesome.
It was so incredible because the cinema was pretty much full, and before, you know, everybody sits down, and then there's a few last people who come in, and they get like the worst seats in the front and wherever. But then like when people sit down, there's always like one seat free because they don't want to sit down to the person next to them. And so in the end, a guy went up on stage and said, can everybody like shove together to fill all seats so that the people who enter don't have to walk to the middle of the
thing.
And we had this like remote video thing of Pablo Larraín talking about it before the screening started.
Oh, that's cool. Nice. Yeah.
And he seemed so funny and like humble in a way. He seemed so shy.
Yeah. The dude is, he's insane. And like Claire Mathon, who shot it, and Johnny Greenwood, who did the score.
Yeah, I think Claire Mathon is one of my favorite cinematographers now, after this and Portrait. And it's incredible. Especially seeing those side to side, they're so different. And if you'd see Jackie and Spencer, you'd think they'd be shot by the same person, but they're just not. And it just goes to show like what a director's vision can do as well, and how
shows versatility of the DP too. It's something that Deacon says a lot. He's like, he doesn't have a style, he just sort of adapts to whatever the needs of the film are. And I think that's what truly, you know, mark like a great director of photography. They talked about it a lot. Kristen talked about it, having like a woman camera operator for most of the shots, like really helped them get to like a more intimate place as well. It's just, it's something about Claire that's just, she just has a great instinct, you know, like that entire candle scene was like completely improvised apparently. And they just, It's amazing.
There's scenes in there that it's just incredible. When they start, you're like, what the hell? What is happening? But it's so. I think it's one of those films where every single aspect is just. Every member of the team was so on point and it fits so well. Like Johnny Greenwood is the only person I can imagine scoring this. Claire Martin is the only person like now that I can see like making this, and Kristen Stewart. It's just I can't imagine anything to be different except one or two moments in the script.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even talk
other
about
than that,
Kristen
it's
Stewart
just-
yet.
Yeah, she's incredible.
It made me do like a complete 180 on her career. Like, I mean, I never disliked her. I just thought, like she was in, Twilight, and like, I don't hate those movies either. I've only seen the first one, but
Yeah, me neither. I'm just very
exactly,
different.
yeah. And so I came into this with like, I was hesitantly optimistic, I would say, and then from her first line, just like there was a point where like maybe like 15 minutes into the film, she's like looking into a mirror or something and like looking at the pearls or something like that. Completely lost. Hold on.
I can't hear you.
We're just going to record the rest of the podcast like this because my freaking AirPods died. They can't hold a charge for shit. So, the hat's
my
coming
hair
off.
is incredible today.
Honestly, I've been wearing this for almost an hour, and I'm a little scared to take it off. I don't want to know what my hair will look like. So, anyway, Spencer has been the latest revelation for me.
I think Spencer also together with Jackie, but actually I think I loved Jackie when I watched it, but it only really rolled in after I watched Spencer because it was like there was something that clicked about the style of it's the specific kind of subjective storytelling, and I'm so glad we have a director like Lorraine doing biopics that are actually special and that actually work and that aren't the entire life of the person, but that are like 3 days. And it's so nice to have this focus and
yeah. And he actually made it very clear in the Q&A after the second day. So we went back in line. We're first in line again the next day to see it. And one of like the reps for Neon saw us and recognized us.
Oh yeah, they got you.
And they're like, you guys lined up early yesterday or something, and they like gave us free passes in. But at that one there was a Q&A after, and he was like, he made it clear that Spencer is not a biopic because unlike Jackie Kennedy, which people knew like a lot about her, she was a very like open public figure. Princess Diana was sort of the opposite. Like nobody really knew the real her. And so they took so many like educated artistic liberties, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
In terms of like how they portray her. So it's technically not a biopic, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it starts with a tale based, or there's something that's
a fable
being
based
written.
on a true tragedy. Yeah. I loved that. Yeah. But yeah, Spencer. It's like a horror film in a way. Like there's so many. I think the Pearl scene is my favorite scene actually. After having seen it 6 times now. I saw it again at Denver Film Festival, and then I've streamed it on VOD twice.
Yeah, I've seen it twice. And the Pearl scene and the scene where she opens the curtains.
Talk about it.
Yeah, rips up
Talk
the
about
curtains. Those are my 2 favorite. It's incredible. Yeah. There's this scene. Do I spoil stuff with it? No. Princess Diana is being protected by her curtains being closed, but she doesn't want that, like doesn't want them to be closed. So at one point she comes into her room and they're sewed together so that she actually can't open them. the scene continues with her ripping like open the curtains.
She gets bolt
and
cutters
there's this,
or something. Wire
yeah,
cutters. She gets wire cutters. Yeah.
yeah, and there's this shot of, we've been in the interior like of the, yeah, palace,
The estate. Yeah.
for several like I think 30 minutes at
Even
this
longer.
point,
Yeah.
or yeah, longer. And there's these warm colors like everywhere. There's candles, like tapestries, golden picture frames and stuff like that. It's extremely warm inside, and so she rips these curtains, and there's this really blue, like light blue light coming in from
ice.
outside, and it hit really, yeah, ice cold, and it hits her, and it's so relieving.
Cathartic, some might say.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite scene, even before the pearl scene, because it's so simple, and there's this almost sexual
Breath
quality
that
to
she
the act
releases.
of, yeah, ripping the curtains, and then it's very cathartic. Yeah,
the
incredible
movie
scene.
itself is just like, it's very cathartic. I mean, the last shot, we're not going to spoil anything major. The last shot is her sighing.
Yeah.
And it's just, they could have ended it in such a different way. And I'm so glad that they decided to take it in a bit of a like more, I guess triumphant, a bit of a lighter tone. And really just make Princess Diana like, I think it's a very beautiful portrayal of her, even if they did take some liberties. And like there have been people who were very close to her, like security people and like the chef, and people who like were close with her have seen the film and have gone on record saying like, this, like Kristen Stewart is the closest that anyone has ever come to portraying like the real Princess Di.
Yeah. How many?
There's been like
portrayals were there
4.
before?
Actually, Naomi Watts, going back to Mulholland Drive, played Princess Diana.
Yeah.
I heard that one is
I
not
haven't
very
seen
good.
her.
And then like Elizabeth Debicki's playing her on The Crown. She looks like
Of
her, and
course,
like she's also super tall, so that's like dream casting. But for me now, Kristen Stewart will always be like the GOAT, Princess Diana, I think.
Yeah.
Going back, I mean, this is episode sort of just turning into like a Spencer talk.
An amazing film. Like if
Please
you haven't seen
do,
it, watch it. Yeah, I was actually so obsessed with it to the point where people told me to stop posting about it on my Instagram, because I mentioned it in like every post, like 3 days in a row, I think, or 3 posts in a row, and people were like, "Bro," not like seriously telling me stop, but in a
I got a lot of DMs during my Telluride run where I was like not shutting up about Spencer, but all of them were like, I'm so, because like they're like, oh, like you never talk about movies this highly, like this has to be really good. And I'm like, I hope I'm not overhyping it, but I probably am. It came out recently, and I've gotten a lot of like follow-up DMs from, I want to say like close to 50 people who DM'd me initially about it, and I'm pretty sure every single one of them was like, you didn't hype it up enough. Like, this movie is absolutely like unreal. I mean, in the film, you're sort of conditioned, in films in general, you're conditioned to feel at ease with like warmer color temperatures. Like, it's supposed to make you feel invited. But with the with the music and the performances,
the music, oh my god,
the scene that I was talking about earlier, the soup scene, Lorraine does this in Jackie too, where there's like live cello players.
Cellists.
There's live cellists and live violins and everybody like doing a concert, but then that music goes from being diegetic to like taking over the score.
Which I love.
It's so good. It's sort of like a Lorraine trademark now, but it happens in the soup scene because they're not serenaded, but they're being played like a piece by some musicians, and then as she continues to like eat the soup, the music grows louder, and then it gets to a point where like it's all you can hear except for the panicked sounds of her breathing. And like finally when she breaks the pearl chain like and starts eating the pearls, it's like a very weirdly satisfying scene to me.
Which again, there's something sexual about that again.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think and by sexual I don't mean sexy or you know, I don't mean there's like sexual tension, but there's something within her that, and the way she portrays this kind of being on the edge constantly,
Yep.
it feels very, very bodily. Kind of.
It's a very physical performance.
It's so physical.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, if other actors would do this, this would be overacting what she does here. But she does it in a way where it feels minute. Like her movements, sometimes they feel so small, or like a trembling breath or something. But they're so being focused on here that it feels huge.
Yeah.
Constantly, but never overacted or over presented in the way Lorraine shows it.
Yeah, and I mean, we talk about it being a physical performance, and that all comes to like a very satisfying climax, I would say, with the dance montage. This is the last thing we'll talk about for Spencer, I think. But they were talking about in the Q&A that they allotted like an hour at the end of every filming day to just mess around and like do movement stuff. Claire and Pablo and Kristen, and like their wardrobe person would just wheel around that big like wardrobe thing just in case they wanted to change dresses for different songs. If you have seen Spencer and you want to listen to the music that they played for Kristen on set while she was dancing, Spotify has that playlist of like all the songs they played to sort of inform her movements. But the dance montage is absolutely ridiculous. Like if that movie couldn't have done anything more to win me over. They had to add in a fucking dance scene. Like,
yeah, and I also cried during this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
Which scene?
When she's in the house.
Oh, when she cries. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also cried at the candlelit game scene.
Yeah.
Those kids were so good. Yeah, I think I also I cried another time too. I don't remember. I cried maybe like 4 times. Ridiculous. Anyway, I think we'll wrap up there with Spencer.
Yeah.
We're going at
now it's
an hour. Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah,
we can cut that down.
Yeah.
Man, this
is the same thing every time.
Yeah.
By the way, in case my next setup, or we do another episode like in the next few days, and but my setup may be different for the next one because I'll be back in Sweden.
Oh yeah,
so
nice.
My background is going to look different. Yeah.
Very nice. Yeah, my backdrop has changed slightly each time. I'm actually I'm kind of hoping to build a little like makeshift set or like podcast studio in a different room. I'm just looking for the right table. I just want a nice wood table.
I mean, my lighting setup, now it changed completely throughout the course of this podcast. Yeah. It's gone from dark to bright because it's very early in the morning and the sun is now there.
It is risen. But yeah, dude, thanks for joining me on this New Year's episode.
I love this.
I feel like I'm
this vibe I'm getting.
They had to do this in like the what was that, like World War I, like radio people. I feel like I'm relaying important messages. Somebody's doing like Morse code right next to me.
Yeah.
You do what you got to do. I mean,
Actually, after this podcast, I'm going to a sound music production session with
sick.
My composer and your composer as well.
My composer. Yeah. Shout out to Soren. Dope. Wait, he's in Sweden?
I'm in Germany now. Bro, I've told you this.
I'm gonna
like
cut that part
100
out.
times.
No.
I'm gonna be back on the 19th. I've wrote. Oh my god.
I'm cutting that out. You're just
don't
gonna see
you
Claudius
recognize my
ranting at me, and you're
recognize
not
my
gonna
room?
know what I
Like,
said.
Don't you recognize my room?
Yeah, I do,
Bro.
Anyway.
Fucker. Okay, we've got to wrap this up, guys. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. You're the best. And comment your favorite, like your life-changing
Comment a film that
films
changed your
down
life
below.
down below.
Subscribe.
That was a very eloquent wrap up. Thank you for doing it for me. Okay, thanks everybody. we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Okay, sick. Look at how ridiculous this looks.